temperatures this morning here in Texas. I saw about 47 here, and things are clear. With it being so cool, we've pushed a lot of the tropical air offshore out in the Gulf of Mexico, so we are at least a few days away from any strong severe weather activity. So let's check out the charts right now. We see southerly flow, but it's a cool southerly flow because it's originating from high pressure. Let's see where that is. Well, we see southerly flow in the high plains, northerly flow in the Ohio Valley in southeast U.S. So eventually we can find a place where the flow returns back to the south, and that's going to be right there. So that's the ridge of high pressure, or actually the high. That's the high itself, the Canadian high, pretty much sitting over the southeast Kansas area right there. So we see maybe 1018 here, 1018 millibars. And what that means is as that high slides southeast, it's going to be a cold night in Arkansas. You can see the dew points are down in the 30s, clear skies, high pressure, light winds. So we're looking for things to be pretty cool from northeast Texas all the way up to southern Illinois. But it's been a very quiet spring so far. I was sitting here thinking about this. We have not had any big weather outbreaks, and I've been looking to activate the channel and follow a big severe weather outbreak, but we just have not had one. And I guess in terms of damage and injuries, loss of life, that's probably a good thing, but if things do change a bit, I'm going to bring up the channel and we'll check it out. Look at that, very strong northerly flow, very strong cold front in the Dakotas right there. We see 72 degrees right there south of Rapid City, and 73 southeast of Pierre, or yeah, that's Pierre, which is over here. And then we cross that frontal boundary and we go from 70s to 30s. Very large increase right there. But it appears that that's kind of a shallow air mass, because when we get to the Rockies, it's barely banked up against the Rockies and almost not reaching the mountain range itself. So west of there, you can see the intermountain air mass right there. Just kind of a stagnant air mass. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s down in the valleys. And let's head down to California. I know we usually have a few viewers out that way, so let's check it out. Well, we can see very strong southwesterly flow. 80s. There at, I want to say that's Page, Arizona. Wow, 83 in Kingman, 88 in Las Vegas. Yeah, that's very warm, and this is indicative of the strong warm air mass that we get ahead of the Pacific systems. So when we have a Pacific system coming out of the oceanic areas right there, out ahead of it we tend to get this very strong southwesterly flow, kind of a dry, warm flow, and that's what we have in place over the Four Corners and Arizona there. And then real quick for Texas itself, we'll take a look at that area and look for where the moisture is. We don't have any actual observations. That's going to be a bad plot. But it looks like the 60s dew points are very far offshore, and we can see northerly winds right there in northeast Mexico. So that's also going to cut off our moisture, and it'll be a few days before we get the return flow up the Rio Grande. I'm having trouble with that. I need to look that up. Rio Grande. I'll just go with that for now. All right, so anyway, that's the weather picture. We can see temperatures have been kind of on the cold side from the eastern U.S. all the way to the southern plains, and the warm air kind of moving northwest or northeast as a plume right there, and then we have a bit of downslope and maybe adiabatically warmed air right in that region right there. Lots of cold air up to the north in Canada, and that's a big change from what we've had over the past few weeks. So there's a possibility some of that cold air could make its way south. Let's look at the 250 millibar chart. This is kind of the key to what's happening. And what we've got, kind of a zonal flow across the U.S. right there, kind of broken up into a few major troughs. And these aren't what I would call long wave troughs. You've probably heard that term before. A long wave trough is going to be on the order of thousands of miles or thousands of kilometers. So what I would look for is this depression maybe a bit of a long wave ridge right there, and then a trough way out here. So embedded in that are these migratory troughs, and you can see those moving eastward. Long waves tend to move very slowly, and that's another distinguishing feature. These troughs here, these will be moving eastward at about 10 to 20 knots, so they're definitely on the move there. Okay, in the southern plains, we've got northerly flow, 60-knot flow right there over Kansas and Oklahoma, bringing a little bit of that cold air, the remnants of that cold air southward. This low aloft, that's there because of the very high density of the cool air in the Mississippi River Valley. So you look back to the temperature anomaly, you see that it's unusually cold in that area. In the trough aloft right there at 250 millibars, 34,000 feet, the upper troposphere, that represents that cold air near the ground. Okay, so anyway, polar front jet from Central California up to the Dakotas, then looks like that kind of splits, one segment up in the Great Lakes, another down in Oklahoma to Virginia, and then to New England, kind of like that. Okay. And looks like a little bit of maybe a little bit of a omega block. So it kind of resembles the omega, the Greek omega right there. So that could be a blocking pattern right there. And that's kind of a block because if you think about it, this little kink right here taps a lot of warm air down to the south. It kind of builds the ridge on that side. This taps a lot of the cool air to the north. That kind of builds the trough. So it's all kind of a reinforcing pattern. All right. Going down to 500 millibars, you can see polar front jet up in the northern tier states, a little bit different from the 250 millibar flow we had on the other chart. Then at 700 millibars, this is going to be up at about 10,000 feet. You can see a cutoff low over Tennessee right there. So that's a reflection of the cold air still in that region. But we're starting to pick up a little bit of the baroclinicity, the cyclonic development near the surface associated with that baroclinic zone. So we can see the 250 millibar or the 850 millibar low right there over the Memphis area. This is up at about 5,000 feet, and we're going to start picking up the actual front in that area right there. And then on the surface chart, we definitely see that low pressure area. It looks like it since 12Z, which is what those other charts were for. This is the current chart, and we can see that the surface low has moved eastward. So there's the fronts there at the surface, and then the 850 millibar flow, probably over the Atlanta area like that. Okay, quick look at the satellite imagery there. This is the infrared image. Looks like maybe a little bit of an upper level system working across the Great Basin area there. But here in the eastern U.S., you can see the the baroclinic system over Georgia right there. So got a bit of a comma cloud in that region. There's the deformation zone right here back behind that low pressure area. And a lot of very broken to overcast stratocumulus in this area, and that's because of the very steep lapse rates between the modifying air near the surface and this mid-level low pressure area. Very cold air, kind of a cold pool there. So that's given us a very unstable profile on the soundings. So if the unstable air is a little bit deeper, we would get certainly some showery activity back in this area. But for now, there's kind of an inversion there, so it's spreading out into stratocumulus there. Okay, then we'll take a look at the thermal characteristics on the thickness chart. This is the 500 to 1000 millibar thickness. And wow, look at that cold air up to the north over the Hudson Bay region. That's a very good chunk of cold air lurking up to the north there. This warm front, though, over the Dakotas, keeping that at bay. There's that southerly flow on that side of the high pressure area. And then the Pacific front looking kind of like this here. Maybe this segment here, kind of a warm front segment, but that looks to be like the pattern right there. And then this Canadian system, this is probably going back kind of like that right there. Okay, so all the air that's over Idaho and Washington, Oregon, Northern California, this is all Pacific air. So the origin is from the North Pacific Ocean, the Gulf of Alaska, and then over Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario. All of that is originating from the polar ice cap and the Canadian high Arctic. Okay, let me take a quick look at chat, see who we got here tonight. Very quiet night, and chat kind of reflects that a little bit. We have Andrew here up in Peoria. Fantastic evening there, probably very dry and under that ridge, probably some very light winds there. Fun with Tech is here, and Alexi, VHC Media, Thomas Copeland, and Brett Dean. 54 there in Jersey, looking for a chance of rain. Juggalo Life, Juggalo 4 Live 91. Looks like we have an Insane Clown Posse fan there. Is this live? Yep, it is. It is live. I do some recorded weathercasts every now and then. Megan John checking in from Minnesota. Kevin McKinney, 4 inches of rain there at Chattanooga with that baroclinic system down there in Tennessee. Ryan Toomies is here, Eddie W. Ryan down in Florida, drying out from that monsoon rain that they just had. Brett Dean and Ryan Toomies, heavy flooding, 78 degrees, drying out. Juggalo for Life saying 52. Oh, asking about 52 in Nashville. He's seeing 54, so probably looking at a different station or a different time there. Megan John looking for snow possibility on Thursday. Sarah Wood checking in there in Indiana. And Ryan Myers just ordered Tim's forecasting and analysis book. Yeah, we'll get that out in a couple days. And scanning through chat right here. Am I going to do a book on soundings? Yeah, that is under development. That's been a very high priority, and I'm gradually getting that put together. So that'll be out hopefully pretty soon. Okay, we looked at the fronts across the U.S. and Canada there. Maybe we can take a look at a couple soundings. We could probably go underneath that cold pool aloft, maybe to Birmingham, Alabama. And the soundings show a little bit of a frontal inversion right there. There's the top of the cold air mass, and you can see the flow in that air mass, kind of light and southwesterly. Above that, lapse rates are not too steep, kind of conditionally unstable there. Let's check out Atlanta. There's a little bit of instability right there. And let's see who else. Maybe we'll go up into the Bismarck area and check out the Canadian air mass. And there we see a very dramatic transition from cold air to warm air above. And we can tell this is warm air because if we extend this down to the surface, we get about 60 degrees right there. The air mass we have in place is about 0 Celsius. That's going to be about 32 Fahrenheit, so much different near the surface. Then the dynamics. This is the 500 millibar dynamics up at 18,000 feet. This is in the middle of the troposphere. So this is going to be the current chart here. We can see the main cold core low over northern Alabama right there. A ridge moving into the southern plains. And there's that zonal flow across the northwest U.S. We're just kind of in between systems here in the Great Plains. Not much going on here. Over the next couple days, we'll just see the ridge start breaking up and we'll start to come under this stronger flow aloft. You can see a couple waves moving through Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado on Monday. So if we can get the moisture to start coming in, we definitely have the upper air patterns to support severe weather. So the key is going to be on those surface charts there. Tuesday bringing in much faster flow. There's the jet location right there. Going into Wednesday, trough kind of barrowing in right there into New Mexico. Jet over Texas and Oklahoma. So I would imagine things are going to become active here around midweek. Then it looks like around Wednesday night into Thursday, things move eastward. Okay, let me bring up the dew point profile. Okay, so this is going to be the GFS model. This is our medium range global model. And this will kind of give us an idea where the moisture is and when it will make it back up into the plains. So while that loads, we'll take a look at the patterns over the next day or so. You can see that cutoff low over Alabama right there. The surface system that's located in the Carolinas and southern Georgia, just like that. So ridging over this area, kind of a very cool night. Maybe your last one of the spring. And there's our northern plains system right there. Okay. So we'll bring this forward into tomorrow. So for tomorrow's webcast, there we go. That's a little bit better. Sorry about that. So for tomorrow night, looks like the cold front taking its time moving south through the Dakotas right there. Pacific front making a little bit of headway maybe into Utah and Colorado. And then our Atlantic system, that's kind of moving either out of the picture or up the coast. starting to bring up the southerly flow, but you can see we're tapping mostly Mexico tomorrow. So for Tuesday, when we do the webcast, we're tapping a lot of Mexico, but starting to bring up some Gulf moisture. And here comes the front out of Canada, moving southward. Pacific system also entering the picture right there. So, I don't know, dry line now looks like it might be something like this, so it's going to be a close one. And then for Wednesday, now we get the Pacific and the Canadian system kind of blending. A little bit of frozen precipitation up in the Lake Superior area and the UP of Michigan. And we've got another Pacific system moving in there in California. So we're talking about the system moving through Texas on Wednesday night. And we'll come back to that dew point chart in just a second. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, you can see the better moisture down here in the Gulf. This is the 70-degree dew point line right there. This is the 60. And you can see that the north wind's blowing that southward. So what happens tomorrow night? Let's see if I can get that to come up. Okay, that's the only frame I can bring up. This is 4 p.m. tomorrow. But we can see some moisture starting to come up. We're talking about lower 50s dew points coming up the I-35 corridor, and the 60s are well south of Brownsville. So this would support maybe some high base storms if we had a good boundary. But we really need those 60s dew points here on the plains. Okay, let's see here. I'm missing some frames here. I guess we'll have to settle for Wednesday at Tuesday night. Okay. Yeah, we're bringing up some moisture. Looks like 60s finally make it up into Oklahoma and southwestern Missouri there, and 70s coming up into Houston and San Antonio very quickly. Very surprising. The only other factor is the depth. You know, we don't know how deep this moisture is, but it does look like by Tuesday night, we probably have enough moisture for thunderstorms. And there's the dry line right there. So Tuesday night, dry line just west of Fort Worth and west of San Antonio right there. And then on Wednesday afternoon, I think that's going to be an active, possibly severe weather day on the plains. I don't know how much moisture we have, but you can see the dry line forming a triple point right there in the DFW area on Wednesday afternoon right there. So chance of severe weather in that area. And then things move eastward on Thursday. So you can see 70s dew points coming up into central Alabama right there on Thursday. Okay, so let's head back to the charts here and check out the rest of the picture. For Friday's webcast, we lose our eastern system and we look back to the west. Looks like we're bringing moisture back up through Texas and maybe another chance of severe weather in Oklahoma on Friday. So I think the dry line is probably going to be set up kind of like that. And then for Saturday, some of that energy moves up the boundary, up into Missouri, Iowa and Illinois, so maybe a chance of severe weather there this weekend. And there's a cold front extending southward into Texas. Some pretty good snow, looks like, maybe around Santa Fe, in Alamosa there in the central Colorado valleys. Dry line, probably something like that right there, so I think we're looking at maybe a chance of strong thunderstorms over the weekend. Everything moves eastward on Sunday, the 30th. So probably a big thunderstorm day there on Sunday, and then on Monday, probably same thing too. It looks like most of the stronger energy moves northeastward into the Great Lakes here. Okay, a bit of a break there, and then on the 2nd and 3rd on Wednesday, looks like we have another system coming through the southern plains. Another chance of thunderstorms on that day too. Then high pressure moving southward, bringing some cold air into the Ohio Valley right there on the 4th. And then on the 5th and 6th on the following weekend, looks like another Canadian system heading southward. And then we get up to the 9th and 10th, and we're at the end of the run. So that's about all I have. Just kind of a quiet day here, not much to talk about, but we're looking at thunderstorm chances gradually going up this week. And we'll start to have more stuff to look at here. Okay. Ahmed made it in, and let's see, I'm having trouble reading all the chat here, but GFS, Sarah Wood says GFS seems to indicate the possibility of tornadoes in northern Indiana on Saturday. So yeah, we'll take a quick look at Saturday here. And here we can see the warm front. That's a big element that we see in a lot of springtime severe weather situations. You can see the Gulf is wide open. There's all the moisture spreading northward. And then I'll give you the moisture very quickly for Saturday. There's Saturday afternoon right there. 70s dew points in some areas from southern Illinois up to central Missouri right there. So a lot of ingredients in place right there for severe. So yeah, we'll be watching Illinois and Indiana for sure this weekend. Okay. I guess you know what that means. I guess I'm probably done for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. And we'll cover more of this possible severe weather outbreak later this week. Anyway, have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.